Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. LeBron's minutes are down, but will it matter tonight versus Phoenix? We'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts, always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to hang out with 21,000 plus subscribers to the channel, all of whom are excited about the Lakers home opener tonight, but slightly disappointed, Andy, that the nature of this matchup has changed because Bradley Beal, who was out for Phoenix's opener on Tuesday against the Warriors up in San Francisco with a back ailment that most Lakers fans thought was completely made up, that he would miraculously heal in time for tonight's game. He is listed as doubtful, as is Booker, who has a toe injury, Andy, apparently. And Devin Booker is also listed as doubtful. And in game 3 of an NBA season, day 3 of an NBA season, guys who are downgraded to doubtful rarely recover fast enough to play in the game that night.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for anybody to get downgraded then upgraded enough where they actually play. But you have to figure if this is happening in game 2 of a season where the league has gone out of their way to scare the living bleep out of teams for anything that even has a whiff of load management, which, to be clear, I'm not saying that either one of these guys are doing that. I'm just saying Adam Silver and the gang are, they got rabbit ears and they're hyper aware of all of this stuff. So you have to figure they're not going to be out and they are, getting their doctor's notes.
Andy, they've sent the toe inspectors out to look at Devin Booker, and they're shoving Bradley Beal around to see what that back does. I will say, if you are somebody who plays the Prize Picks, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You go to prizepicks.com, /locked on NBA, all lowercase, and use the code. And you get a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, all lowercase, locked on NBA. I would leave these guys out of your thing.
Obviously, from the perspective
ahead.
Of just like excitement, game matchup, measuring sticks, all that stuff for the Lakers, entertainment, tension, drama. This is a disappointment because you want the best game possible. That being said, if it turns out Beal and Booker do not play for the Suns, a team that has been radically overhauled this offseason, just YOLO move after YOLO move, as I've described their new owner, Matt Ishbia. He's like the guy that goes to the Texas steakhouse and orders the 72-ounce ribeye that, you win. Like they'll comp the steak if you finish it in an hour. Matt Ishbia has been operating the Suns as if that's the only thing he ever orders anytime he ever goes.
That's his lunch order, Andy.
Yeah.
It's not even for dinner.
Yeah, well, no, it's his lunch order before later having that for dinner as well, which, 3 squares of that. That's how Matt Ishbia rolls. But all that to say, if this ends up the case, I don't care that this is game 2 for the Lakers. This is a must-win game. Like, I am not effing around with this statement. This is must-win. You have to win this game. I don't care if it's October 26th.
It's one of these things, and like people are gonna get must win. Shut up, man! It's the second game of the season.
No, you shut up. It's must win.
You shut up. It's one of those things that and I'm not saying like the Lakers, for example, have a plan about LeBron James's minutes, which we discussed for Wednesday's show, which we're going to discuss in more detail today because I find this fascinating. But it is a must win. At least to me, in the context of like what it is that this season is going to be. Phoenix is a rival, a direct rival where, you could end up where the results of the season series are, could impact your playoff seeding. Like you could be a 3 or a 4 or a 2 or a 3, depending on your head-to-head record against some of these teams. And, or
Maybe
your
the difference
conference
between
record.
home court and not having home
Correct.
court.
Your home court, you're this, that, whatever. Anytime that you get a game that otherwise would have been losable, even if you play well, and I home opener, I understand it's your home court, it's all that stuff, whatever. The Phoenix Suns, when everybody plays, are, they've got Durant, Booker, Beal, and, a somewhat, look at what they did on Tuesday. They had three. Gordon would hit an important shot. Nurkic had an important bucket. Like other guys were, Kogi had a key three. But when those guys don't play, you got to win. Like that is an advantage that you have to take advantage of. It doesn't matter if it's game 2 or game 62. You don't want to get in the habit of passing up good opportunities to win games, particularly against high-end rivals.
+2. I mean, the loss to Denver was, you could say in certain respects it felt inevitable just given who Denver is. They're the best team in the league. We're going to talk about they have continuity in ways that the entire league doesn't have. Like they're the Lakers, I think, relative to a lot of these other teams that are looking to compete for a championship, they're on the upper end of the spectrum when it comes to continuity. Like, there are a lot of these other teams are working in pretty new and pretty significant pieces. Milwaukee's doing it. Boston's doing it. The Clippers have to reunite their old new players in a lot of ways. Like, there are a lot of teams. Golden State's figuring out how this works with Chris Paul. Like, there are a lot of teams around the league who have significant questions. The Lakers have a lot of their questions answered. They just need to figure out how to do it better. But their continuity is still smoked by Denver's. A lot of people, including our buddy Mo DeKeel, tweeted out. They've tweeted out videos of the last 4 or 5 minutes of the loss to Denver and how Denver carved up the Lakers, running essentially the same action multiple times in a row. It was basically all set up to get Jokic the ball at the elbow where he could run the offense from there. There's little variances in terms of what happens after Jokic gets the ball.
Right.
But
counters and you read and react and all these other things based on what the Lakers are doing to defend it.
But the foundation is the same every time. And it just, it speaks to the difference between like continuity and continuity.
Yes. Where you're able to go 4 deep, 5 deep, 6 deep into the option tree as opposed to 1 or 2 or 3.
Right. So like that loss to Denver could feel somewhere between kind of expected and disappointing, depending on how unhappy you were with the way the Lakers played. But there are ways that you can justify it without feeling like panic is necessary. Although based on some of our YouTube comments, we've already reached the panic phase. If you lose this game to a newly assembled Suns squad that's missing 2 of their 3 best players and doesn't really even have a point guard, like the amount of noise is going to be deafening. And it's going to bother even a team like this. I'm not saying it's going to derail the whole season.
No, and it's
rather
not
avoid
into panic mode, but it is 100% a missed opportunity.
Yep.
And you don't want to start piling those up early in a season. We missed one there, we'll get it back. We missed one there, we'll get it back. We missed one there. You want to do it from the other way. You want to start taking games and give yourself a little cushion. And obviously this is one of those deals. It is a shame because it takes a little of the shine off the game. We had actually done a preview podcast with Brendan Clean of Locked On Suns that had to be essentially scrapped because all the matchups we were talking about may not happen. But it does give us, Andy, more time to talk about this LeBron minutes plan and whether it is a good idea or a bad idea. We both have thoughts, and we'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Ibata, and big holidays mean big family get-togethers, but you don't have to spend all that money on the Thanksgiving festivities without getting something in return to feel extra thankful for. With Ibata, you get your turkey and all the favorite sides for free. Starting November 1st for the 4th year running, Ibata is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem everything. And all you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers, upload your receipt. Ibata gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, and you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you are purchasing. Other apps give you points that nobody ever gets around to redeeming, let's be honest. But with Ibata, you get real cash back, homie, that can be added to your bank account, PayPal, gift cards. Download the Ibata app and use the code LOCKED to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting November 1st. Go to the App Store, the Google Play Store, download the free Ibata app and use that code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Again, use that code LOCKED.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks, you might ask? Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports, that's DFS, platform in North America. Easily the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against numbers. And so you're not battling thousands of other players, whether they be rank amateurs or total sharks. You're picking more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and that's it. Doesn't matter what other people are doing, only matters what you choose. And then you watch the winnings roll in if all goes well. Here's what I like about Prize Picks, Andy. It's that it's easy. It's simple to play. You make your picks, you submit your entry. The whole thing takes like a minute, like 60 seconds. That's it. Plus, you get quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types. And that's what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And here's something else that I particularly like. That, think about football, NFL, college football, top 25 matchups. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half, doesn't return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. I wish I had that for myself. So here's what you do. You go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. You use the code LOCKEDONNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/lockedonnba for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Quick bit of housekeeping, Andy. Jared Vanderbilt is not going to play tonight against the Phoenix Suns. That was announced by the Lakers on Wednesday evening. So game 2 of Vanderbilt not playing. And we are how many games, Andy, before you start to get concerned?
It's a little bit of a problem. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt offers a very specific utility that really nobody else on this team. He is a defensive specialist that in particular can guard a variety of different guards and a variety of small forwards that the Lakers are not steeped in guys that you want doing that for a variety of reasons. He also, too, is one of the better rebounders on this team. And as we saw in game 1, rebounding was an issue.
So we'll see, what this looks like as the Lakers, perhaps meet the media, whether it's, I'm sure Darvin will be asked about it before the game on Thursday, but certainly might have some things to say about it after or into the weekend. Well, something to keep an eye on. So LeBron played 29 minutes in the opener, and whether it's 29, 28, 31, 30, the number, it is pretty clear based on what Darvin was saying after the game that this was not some sort of weird fluke where, our substitution patterns this is designed. This is what the Lakers are planning to do. The idea is to keep LeBron's minutes low going into a game with their substitution patterns planned out and all that kind of stuff mapped out and ready to go. There are a variety of ways to get LeBron. Everybody agrees LeBron's minutes shouldn't be at 36, 37 a game. But how you get to 30, 31, 32, 33, whatever the number is, there's more than one way to do it. You had been sort of talking about almost what you call like in-game load management, where the Lakers reduce his minutes by playing him normal minutes, essentially in some games, but then figuring out ways to sit him by beating the snot out of teams in other instances and finding places to steal those minutes back.
Yeah, I mean, ideally what you'd want is this team to have improved enough between the continuity that they're hopefully building and the additions from the offseason and just generally speaking, the amount of skill players that you have and the type of season that we are both saying we're hoping for and frankly have to have from Anthony Davis, you're hoping that all of those different things come together in ways that stealing some minutes from LeBron becomes organic because he simply doesn't have to play as many minutes. That being said, though, to put in perspective, if 29 minutes is roughly the baseline of what they're looking for, that would be 9 minutes lower than LeBron's career average for minutes, which is about 38 per game. And it's about 4 and change lower than the lowest amount LeBron's ever played in a season, which was the 2021 season. He played 33.4 minutes per game. And you have to assume that was at least in part the byproduct of being concerned about that quick turnaround after the bubble.
For reference, he played 35 and a half last year.
Right. When I had been talking about this, I had been thinking about it in terms of 32, 33, shaving 3-ish minutes off his average on a very regular basis, which would add up. That makes a difference. And certain games, again, with my hope that the team would be significantly better for the entirety of this season than last year, that could be doable. I'm not going to lie, 29 feels impractically low. Like, I don't know if that's feasible.
But even what's interesting to me is the how. Because you're right. I mean, 29 going to turn into 31 on a different day? It certainly could.
31 though is pretty ambitious.
31's pretty low too. 31 or 32, whatever the number is, and it could fluctuate by a couple minutes. What I think is interesting about this plan is that it is not the way you were describing, and I don't mean like you've got it wrong, but like that isn't what they're doing. They're not doing a thing where let's let him average 35 or 36 in regular games and find ways to get him off the floor where he plays 26 or 27 in others. And so in the end, what you've got is this sort of average of 29, 30, 31, 32, and so on. This is truly in-game, in-season load management. Bradley Beal sitting
legal load management, just so it's clear.
And justifiable. Bradley, he's almost 40 and he's 21 years in. Like, you can't play 37 minutes a night and expect to have the good results that you want in the spring. But this is an interesting way. It's a different way of doing it, where you say, like, we're just going to load manage him in the games that he plays. And I think from a consistency standpoint, this makes sense. I can't speak to the science behind it, but from a predictability, from a planning standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a standpoint of like, we're dedicated to this idea of keeping his minutes down, maybe ramping them up later or whatever. But we believe
he ain't playing 29 minutes per game in the playoffs. No, I can promise you that.
I expect ramping him up in the spring when you're battling for seeds, whatever it might be. If you are really dedicated to it, if it really is something that you believe is important as an organization that will help him be healthy and spry in the spring, then I feel like you almost have to do it this way, because otherwise you put yourself in a position where you might not get you might go 2 weeks where you don't have those opportunities to pull him back. And then you have to start making decisions in real time or whatever. I feel like there is a real logic to having the system in place and figuring out how to work within it, then trying to average out piecemeal the minutes to get them to the number that you want. That may I don't know if it'll work, but I respect the logic, and I think it makes more sense.
Well, I mean, again, I obviously respect the initiative to do it, because I've been saying a lot that this is important to do. And my hope was that a lot of what I wanted to happen organically, by definition, wouldn't necessarily take that much maneuvering. That was my hope. Maybe it's not realistic. This is more regimented, What has me concerned, though, in terms of the feasibility of this and where I'm concerned that 29 is closer to the cap than either one of us think works, is this was game one coming off a preseason where, LeBron, I think, played suitably lively when he was out there, but certainly didn't play close to all of it. And the Lakers, this was winnable, if not a game they necessarily should have won, but they had opportunities. You would think that if there was flexibility, we would have seen it more in this particular game that they were trying to get back into. Like, this doesn't, if 29 is on the low end of what they're looking for, this feels like a weird game to have gone on the low end.
Yeah, but it's the first day to do it. I will tell you, though, what will allow them to continue doing it is taking the opportunity to beat teams like the Phoenix Suns when Devin Booker and Bradley Beal don't play. Interesting rotation choice from Darvin Ham in game one that I don't think anybody saw coming. We'll tell you what that is next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can celebrate this NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you bet just $5, $5, you get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, futures, all sorts of fun stuff. The app is really easy to use, all those different options right at your fingertips. And of course, there are NBA props that you can bet on as well. And Suns, Lakers, boy, did the line shift upon the news of Devin Booker and Bradley Beal getting downgraded to doubtful. Earlier today, just a few hours ago, the Lakers have been giving up 1.5 at home, basically a coin flip pick 'em. It's now Lakers -5.5. So even FanDuel agrees with me. This is must win for the Lakers. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and enjoy the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
So a lot of people were surprised by Cam Reddish playing as much as he did in the first game on Tuesday against Denver. No Max Christie at all in that game. I was a little surprised, at the very least surprised that we didn't see Christie at all, and probably a little surprised at how much Reddish played.
Yeah, I was surprised in the sense that I didn't predict it, but there were signs of it being a possibility. The last preseason game, Darvin gave Cam Reddish a very, very long look. And it's been clear that they've been interested in seeing what they have in him. And with Jared Vanderbilt unavailable, Reddish is like the next in line when it comes to just long wings. You know what I mean? Like he's, regardless of who you think is a better defender between Christie or Reddish, or who you even think is a better player between Christie and Reddish, I think bigger. Reddish, he's bigger, he's longer, and Denver is a big team. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm not going to claim that I saw it coming, particularly as somebody who's been really bullish on Christie having a pretty significant season and a role in the rotation. But there had been signs that this could be coming, and I don't think Reddish, I'll say this is probably the best I think Reddish has looked since putting on a Laker uniform in this game. The baseline's low, to be clear, because most of preseason I thought he looked pretty bad. But in this game, I thought he looked better than he had certainly during training camp.
I don't think he played well in that first initial shift, but that was at a stretch where literally nobody on the floor was playing well for the Lakers. As the game went on, he played better. I think it's pretty clear. People have been paying attention. I'm Reddish skeptical when it comes to his long-term viability. But I mean, overall, he did some nice things. I still don't love it, whatever. But I mean, here's the thing. If I would love to see, I think Max Christie long term is a much better and more important bet for the Lakers. The development of Christie is far more consequential, I think, both to this season potentially, but certainly for the long term, health of the franchise and what their flexibility and what the options that they have. But there's no downside to Reddish making it harder for Christie to get on the floor. The Lakers already have an issue where, if Hayes continues to play as he did in the preseason, Wood rounds into form, had a couple nice moments and a couple less nice moments, I thought, in the opener, where they have more players than they have rotation spots available. Adding Christie and Reddish to that equation makes Darvin's job harder, but it makes the Lakers better. And so there's no downside to it.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that the reason it's hard is because both are giving you reasons to be out there as opposed to
Correct.
neither are, and you have to play somebody, particularly with Jared Vanderbilt out, because, I mean, quite frankly, those minutes might have just gone to Vanderbilt had he been available.
Very possible. Very possible.
He, in certain respects, fills that role, especially considering Reddish has not proven himself as a shooter at all since being in the league. But I think we'll get some more hints in game 2. If Christie doesn't, for all intents and purposes, play in that one, then for the time being, I think it's safe to conclude Reddish is ahead of him in the rotation. Whether he stays that way, I think, or he has that spot sewed up, again, I think we'll really learn once Vando's back, because Vando, I have gotten every single indication, is earmarked for some kind of playing time. I mean, this was an interesting game against Denver in the sense that the size that Denver has, even over a team that's gotten much bigger than like the Lakers, Denver is a really big team, particularly among their starters. The amount of time that Wood played over Jackson Hayes, even though on paper you could maybe see this as more of a Hayes matchup, that was in part, I think, the Lakers fighting a lot from behind and looking to score, and Wood is much more of a scorer than Hayes. But I think we'll get some indication in game 2 about where this lies between Wood and Hayes as well, like in terms of the pecking order between the backup bigs behind AD.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time of year where you're both simultaneously trying to develop continuity and trying to develop consistency in your rotation, but also trying to figure out what works and play around with rotations and play around with lineups. And the Lakers, you can't wait too long to do those things because you don't want to be experimenting in July. In July, nobody's playing in July. You don't want to be experimenting in January. You don't want to be finally getting around to trying different lineups in February or March. But the Lakers are also up against a really challenging first 15 games where, even the easy games have at least some tinge of potential challenge. They see Orlando twice. Correct?
Yep.
And look, I mean, they beat the Rockets, but Orlando won their opener on Wednesday by 40.
Look, we talked about size before.
30. My math is a little off. No, it might be 40. No, 30. But either way, that's a blowout.
We talked about size before. If nothing else, with Banchero and Franz Wagner, like, Orlando offers size issues that you have to deal with.
Carter Jr., right. I mean, and so like they're not trash probably, as a squad, at least not until guys start getting hurt and they decide to just pack it in for the season.
No, I think they want to try to win this year.
I know. I mean, look, the East is so weak after the top 2 or 2.5 teams that there are some strange. You want to have some fun. We talked about some of the analytics and different projections. Like, go look at the East and see what the computers spit out. Some of the teams. I think Mark Stein's like Stratomatic newsletter had the Hornets getting like from the play-in to the Eastern Conference Finals or something, just because the East is so quirky and weird.
The Hornets should be canceled this season.
They should be canceled for not cutting Miles Bridges, but that's a whole separate question.
Just all sorts of like they should be canceled this season and like severely reprimanded just for blank. Like, they need just a reset. Just an entire reset.
I love our guy Mitch, who's still the GM over there. But yeah, that franchise needs to be stopped. But the point being that like there's so many different cross currents that happen early in a season where you simultaneously. One of the things we talked about with Brendan Clean was that we didn't get may never see the light of day is those projections in the Western Conference, for example. You said on the yesterday's show, it's gonna be hard to see 3 teams winning 50 games, maybe 2. It could even be 1, but like the crabs in a bucket effect makes it so you can't give away these sorts of games. You can't, you have to take every game so enormously seriously that it might feel out of touch or out of proportion to the second or third or fourth or eighth game of a season. But we saw what happened last year when they fell down 2-10. Like you just don't get out of that. Like the league, the league did the Lakers some favors just in not being as good as they. If that happens again this year, the Lakers or any other team are not coming back from that.
Nope, not in this Western Conference. AD score some second half points.
Yeah, it's going to be necessary. Got to win this game. Really disappointed. Aren't you a little disappointed? I wanted to see what this looked like.
Yeah.
Technically, we get KD versus LeBron, but I wanted to see what this looked like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 21,000 subscribers, many of whom sharing our disappointment and hoping for a Lakers victory. We will see everybody on Friday. We have an interesting comment that we'll try to get to. Keep those comments coming. Somebody sent us one that we thought was great. We just didn't get to it for today's show, but keep them coming.
It's about D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and how well they actually work as a pairing.
Yes, we will get to that as quickly as we can, but keep sending us great questions and comments. We'd love to use them for the show. See you on Friday.